This is Polyphonic Press. The podcast where two music fans pick a classic album completely at random.
All right, hey, welcome to Polyphonic Press. I'm Jeremy Boyd.
And I'm John Van Dyke.
And let's not waste any time. We've got the patented random album generator right in front of us here. So let's hit the button and see what album we're going to be listening to this week. And the album we're going to be listening to is Curtis Mayfield, Superfly.
Okay,
so here's a description of the album. It says, Superfly by Curtis Mayfield is one of the most iconic soul albums of the 1970s. And one of the most socially conscious soundtracks ever recorded. Released in 1972 as the companion to the film Superfly, the album goes far beyond typical soundtrack fare. Instead of glorifying the drug-dealing lifestyle depicted in the movie, Mayfield uses his music to critique it, offering a sobering and deeply human perspective on addiction, poverty, and survival in urban America. Musically, Superfly blends lush orchestration with gritty funk grooves, driven by Mayfield's signature falsetto and masterful guitar work. Tracks like Freddy's Dead, Pusherman, and the title track combine infectious rhythms with sharp poetic lyricism that paints vivid pictures of street life, highlighting both its allure and its consequences. What sets the album apart is its duality. It works as a smooth, soulful listening experience while also delivering powerful social commentary. Mayfield's empathetic storytelling gives voice to people often ignored or misunderstood, making Superfly not just a soundtrack but a landmark statement in soul music and a defining piece of 1970s cultural history. Okay. So this album was released on July 11th, 1972. Genres are psychedelic soul, funk, progressive soul, cinematic soul. The label was released on Curtom Records and produced by Curtis Mayfield himself. And there are 9 songs on the album, side 1 and side 2 split 4 and 5. So if you're listening along, which we do encourage you to do, when you start the album, if you want to stop after the song Junkie Chase, which is an instrumental track, and to hear the halfway discussion. All right, here we go. Here's the first song on the album. It's called Little Child Runnin' Wild. So here we go.
Watch a while, you see he never smiled. Broken home, father gone, mama tired, so is all alone. Kinda sad, kinda mad, ghetto child, thinking he's been had. In the back of his mind he said, didn't have to be here, you didn't have to love for me, while I was just a nothing child. Why couldn't they just let me be, let me be, let me be, let me be?
Okay, and ending side 1 with Junkie Chase. Yeah, this is a really, this is a very lush record. It's a very big, and it's a very it's sort of an epic funk soul album so far. Yeah, it's I'm really enjoying it. It's gritty, but it's also, the music is just is really enjoyable at the same time.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the subject matter is definitely gritty and a little depressing sometimes, but it's it's funky, and it's lush, and it's yeah. I'm kind of running out of words myself.
Yeah, no, it's you know, the music is interesting. I think for a little bit we've been listening to albums where it's very much a band recording. And this is not that. This is very much a well put together pop album, and there's nothing wrong with that, obviously, but this is a very different sort of animal. This is with the intention of making a record, not necessarily setting up a band in a studio and seeing what happens. It's very intentional, and it's very, rather than capturing a performance, it's making a recording. He's sort of piecing the whole thing together, and I mean that's kind of what you need for a film soundtrack. I mean, I think that last track, Junkie Chase, was not so much a song, but incidental music for the film. It was, I haven't seen the film, but I'm sure it was a part of the actual music that was in the film. So you kind of need to be more deliberate when you're working in that realm and creating background music for a movie. You can't really just wing it when you're doing that. So I think it's cool to listen to, and it's great music, and it's serving the purpose of being literally a soundtrack for a film.
Yes, this is true. Yeah, it's definitely more of a commercial production, but that's not to knock it. That's to just sort of put in context of how it was made. But yeah, it's just good funky music. It's very of its time, for sure. Not too many soundtracks sound like that anymore. Yeah, the film would probably be sort of interesting. I haven't seen the movie either. Enjoyable.
Yeah, the film obviously released in 1972 as well. It's a blaxploitation film, which I don't quite know what that is. I kind of have a vague idea of what that is. I know it was a genre mainly in the 70s. There were sort of like, I guess B movies. Well, not B movies, but there was still a lot of segregation in the 70s in terms of media, and it's still, there were, even though technically there were still a lot of radio stations that would refuse to play black music, especially down in the southern United States, and movies were kind of that as well. And it's sort of like it was segregated. It was a segregated media. You had the mainstream media, and you had film in the 70s. The 70s was a revolutionary time for film. You had, all of a sudden because like from the late 1950s all the way till the late 1960s, you really had films that were either like a cheesy sci-fi thing, or mostly westerns. Westerns were huge in the late 50s up until like the late 60s. And I think by the time you got to the 70s, people were just tired of seeing those kinds of movies, and they were hungry for something different. So by the early 70s, you had films like The Godfather and you had like Mean Streets and lots of other films like that, the French Connection. And you also had, for the first time, even though it was segregated, you had black people who had all of a sudden were able to make films and had a voice. They had they were able to show what was going on in their world. And even though some of the movies were kind of ridiculous and over the top, they finally felt like they were able to show the world, this is what we have to say, and this is what is going on, and this is what it's like to be us. And I think you had that, and you had the music sort of running along with that as well. I think pop culture in general in the early 70s was really taking a big swing in the opposite direction of where it had been.
But I think it started in the late 60s, because again, you think about Stanley Kubrick's stuff, that's what he was doing in the late 60s.
Yeah, well, no, it definitely started in the late 60s, but by the early 70s, it was like...
By the 70s, it was in full gear, yeah.
I actually think that's about to happen again. You have all those like the superhero movies, the Marvel movies, and people are just tired of them. So I think a big change is about to happen. But anyway, that's a discussion for another time. But yeah, like for putting the context of this, it was an exciting time, because it really was. Even though the Western movies had sort of faded, it really was the Wild West in a way, where it almost seemed like anybody, whether it was the filmmakers or musicians, and I mentioned this last week or maybe the week before, is that 1972, there's something about that year, and we've done a lot of albums from that year. And I don't know, and there are so many classic albums and films that came out in that year. I don't know why that year was so...
Well, I think it's just sort of like a stretch that we've been on. For some reason, it's been picking things from 72. But this period in general, from late 60s, early 70s, is just jam-packed with stuff. But yeah, 72 was no slouch of a year, for sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, it's... Yeah, it just seemed like such an exciting time to be a creative person. And it seemed like the industry was willing to take a chance on young creative people. So yeah, I don't know what it was about that time period. But getting back to this, I mean, it was the stuff that he's talking about, like the gritty sort of, I don't know if I get New York, but I don't know if the film takes place in New York, but that's kind of the image that I get.
Could be. It could be in any major city in the States, really.
Yeah, really. I mean, that was kind of happening all over. Yeah, and it's like the music is cool. I think Curtis Mayfield is the one that invented that guitar with like the wah-wah pedal and the muted like chucking on the strings. I think he kind of invented that sound that was all over the place in 70s, like cop shows and stuff like that. And I think he was the first one to have that sound.
Yeah. Wasn't that Shaft that started that?
I don't know. When was Shaft? Yeah, you're right. Shaft was in 1971, and that was Isaac Hayes that did that. Yeah, so okay, so maybe it wasn't Curtis Mayfield that invented that, but
yeah, they came up with that for Shaft, and you hear it in Junkie Chase on this and a few other spots, I imagine. classic 1970s Chase music.
It is, yeah. And yeah, you're right. It is of its time. You definitely don't hear that in film soundtracks anymore. I kind of wish you would, but it's because it's cool. But yeah, I am enjoying the album, and I think the string arrangements are really interesting. The string arrangements don't feel cheesy like a lot of what they forced a lot of black artists to do to make it like radio friendly. I don't feel that here. I feel like the string arrangements are, well, the fade out of the last song, Junkie Chase, it didn't feel like the cheesy sort of pop strings. It felt like honestly like a string quartet. Like it felt more tangible in a way. Like I don't know how else to describe it, but I like the string arrangements. And yeah, like it's just this big sort of wall of sound that just sort of comes at you, and it's pretty incredible. But I did manage to find a few interesting facts about the album. It says the album was recorded with near film score ambition at insane speed. Despite its lush cinematic sound, much of Superfly was recorded in just a few days with a massive ensemble up to 40 musicians. This wasn't typical for soul records at the time. Mayfield essentially treated the sessions like a film score, layering orchestration, rhythm, and atmosphere all at once. That scale is a big reason the album feels so immersive compared to other funk records. It's closer to orchestral storytelling than standard R&B production. So it is an album recorded live off the floor. It's just a lot of musicians in the room at the same time, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, he had an orchestra in there, and he had his band with the guitarist with the wah pedal, of course. Yeah, it's there was definitely vision involved with this, but it was definitely it's definitely got the sound for something like this, even though it was one of the first, because there was probably hundreds that came after this one, but this between Shaft and this, it pretty much laid the groundwork for what this type of movie would be, and the soundtrack to it, and even influenced other funk albums along the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And number 2 is Mayfield wrote much of it during a deeply personal low point. He composed large portions of the album while living alone in a basement apartment during a separation from his family. That isolation bleeds into the music. Songs like Freddy's Dead and Little Child Runnin' Wild feels less like movie tie-ins and more like personal reflections on despair, survival, and systemic struggle. And that is true. I mean, yes, it's a soundtrack to a film, but it's also important to remember that this is, having not seen the film Superfly, I'm still enjoying the album because the music stands on its own, and I probably will at some point watch the film, but I don't need to enjoy the album. It feels like I don't know, I'm sure that songs like Little Child Runnin' Wild and Pusherman are similar themes to what's in the album, but it's similar themes to what's in the film, but it's not exactly what's in the film. So the album and the film are sort of two separate entities that can be enjoyed independent of each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the songs seem to be, but they're very socially conscious. I don't know how socially conscious the movie was. Again, they called it a blaxploitation film, so it might seem a little glorifying, but I don't know. I'd have to see the movie. I haven't seen the movie, so.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and number 3 is the soundtrack openly contradicts the movie's message. Well, there you go. The film Superfly has often been criticized for glamorizing drug dealing, but Mayfield's music does the opposite. Pusherman and Freddy's Dead portray addiction as tragic and cyclical. The title track subtly undercuts the cool image of the main character. Critics and historians often point out that the album acts as a moral counter-narrative to the film itself, making it far more socially pointed. It's one of the rare cases where a soundtrack is philosophically at odds with the movie it supports.
That is odd. But interesting.
Yeah. I wonder if it's a case, and this happens all the time, where the filmmaker has an intention for what the movie is, but people misunderstand it. Like maybe the film, I'm to make an argument for the film, maybe that was the filmmaker's intention, but people took it to mean that they were trying to glorify it, but where in reality there was like, no, they were just trying to tell a story and show you what's really going on. But people took it as like the main character is like the hero. I mean, that happens like with like TV shows like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos, where the main character is actually the villain, but because it's the main character and people are so used to the main character being the hero, they kind of get confused. So I'm wondering if the filmmaker had an intention to not be glorifying that stuff, but people took it that way.
It's entirely possible. I'd have to see the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And number 4 is it's one of the only soundtracks that became bigger than its film. Superfly didn't just succeed, it outperformed the movie commercially and culturally. It hit number 1 on the Billboard 200. It produced multiple hit singles like Freddie's Dead and the title track Superfly, and became a defining album of the 1970s. In many ways, the album replaced the film as the primary cultural artifact, which is extremely rare in film and music history. And number 5 is Freddie's Dead was disqualified from the Oscars for a technicality. Even though it's one of the album's biggest songs, Freddie's Dead was ruled ineligible for an Academy Award because its lyrical version wasn't actually sung in the film, only an instrumental version appears. It's a strange case where one of the most iconic soundtrack songs was too detached from the film to qualify as a film song.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, the Oscars and the Academy, they have some weird rules of what counts and what doesn't count. And
well, I kind of understand this one. Like, if the theme actually had the lyrics to it, then it probably would have, it would have made more sense to include it. But because the lyrics are so different than the movie, apparently, I can sort of see them feeling like, I don't know, this is a little detached. I don't know if we should do this. And far be it for me to justify every, decision that an academy like that would make, because I find them mostly kind of, well, especially these days, they're very cliquey. They only really accept certain films to begin with from certain studios, I guess. Yeah, it's independent films seem to get regularly snubbed. It really has to push hard to get recognized. But that's a completely other different tangent. I could go on.
No, it's true. It's yeah, but yeah, you're right. That does make sense. If in their eyes the lyrics to the song are totally detached from the film, then it makes sense to not include it. But yeah, so anyway, those are some interesting facts about the album. But I guess we'll get back into the second side, and it starts with Give Me Your Love, and in brackets, love song. So here we go.
All right.
Pusherman, ending the album with the title track, Superfly. Yeah, this is a really well done album. It's it's kind of I wouldn't say all the songs sound the same, but they're kind of blending together in my mind. But they're it's really well done. And yeah, you can tell that it was done with a lot of intention behind it, and I can't really say too much bad about it. I mean, it's interesting. It's really easy to listen to, it's really smooth, and I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a good album. It's I find the juxtaposition between the album and the movie sort of interesting. I'm very curious. But yeah, so far the tracks are all really good on it, and even though some of these tracks are clearly meant to be sort of background to what's going on the screen, it doesn't necessarily come off that way. Even Think, which is that what that says? Yeah, Think comes off as it's an instrumental. It's well done. I mean, it's easy to listen to, but it's also interesting enough to listen to that you don't have to have it on in the background. You can actually, listen to it with intent.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, but you can have it on in the background, and it would be great. The one criticism I would have about the album is it's not about the music. But I think Junkie Chase would have made a better opener for the album, sort of like an overture or something. I think that would have, if they had opened the album with that, I think it would it's a good album on its own, but I think that just would have maybe just put it over the top, just made it just a little bit better, just to have that open the album, because it's that, that 70s Chase funk song. And sort of that would really get you in the mood to the album, and then the rest of the track order is fine. If they had moved that up to the opening slide, I think that would have really made it. That would be the only thing I would change.
Yeah, I'm thinking they were maybe trying to, avoid being too much of a stereotype by doing that. But then again, the stereotype didn't really exist then, so who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, other than that, I don't really have any other criticism, really. I mean, the music is great. Lyrically, really interesting. And, the fact that he wrote it and when he was kind of, going through a separation from his wife or his family, and recorded it relatively quickly, and it's amazing that he was able to pull it off. And yeah, now I am curious to see the movie, to see how different it is from the soundtrack, and whether it really is, like a counterpoint to the soundtrack, or the soundtrack is a counterpoint to the movie. And I'm curious to see what the thought process was behind each of them. I mean, did Curtis Mayfield, did he have access to the movie, or was he just was it just a vague outline? Was he deliberately trying to be contradictory to the movie? I'm curious. This has sort of opened up a rabbit hole for me, I think, for this piece of media, the film and the soundtrack. So, but this might be a bit of a challenge, but we'll do it anyway. What would be your three highlights on the album?
I think I pretty well figured out what my three favorites are on the album. As I was going through them, I like to think of that. I'd say probably Freddy's Dead start off with. Superfly's really good, but I also liked Give Me Your Love. I thought that was another really good track.
Yeah, those are really solid picks. Yeah. I think for me, I would probably go with Pusherman. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, the title track Superfly, I would go with that as well. And yeah, I think Give Me Your Love is a really good album, or a really good song as well. So yeah, those would be my picks. So I think I know the answer, but would you listen to this album again?
I don't know how often I would put it on, but if I'm in the mood for some funk or something like that, some of these tracks definitely would wind up in my mix. But as a standalone album, yeah, I think I'd probably put it on maybe.
Yeah, I would too. Definitely is something that you have to be in the mood for. I don't know if I want to listen to it at any point, or like at any time. But yeah, if I'm in the mood for something smooth and funky, yeah, definitely put it on for sure. So I guess we'll end the episode there. Thank you so much for listening if you made it this far. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line, go to polyphonicpress.com/contact. And we would love to hear your thoughts on our assessment of these albums and any feedback you want to give us. And if you want to check us out on Patreon, join the community and help us out, you can go to patreon.com/polyphonicpress. Lots of cool stuff there, like you can pick an album first to review, get a shout out during these episodes, and get these episodes the day before they go live. And if this is your first time listening, be sure to give us a follow and leave a rating and review on whatever podcast app you're listening on. And I think that just about does it. I'm Jeremy Boyd.
I'm John Van Dyke.
Take it easy.